This recipe is called Creme Caramel. You might know it as flan, leche flan, or maybe a different name, but in French we refer to this as creme caramel. The ingredients are very similar depending on what culture you might be from. You always have eggs. We have the addition of egg yolks here to make it richer. You have vanilla. You can always uh, include other extracts to change up the flavor. And you always start with a base of sugar to make your caramel. To make it an extra silky base or custard, we have milk and heavy cream. So let's get started. Now there are two main parts of this recipe. First, you make the caramel. Now it's important when you're making caramel that you have clean ingredients, so the sugar must be clean. You want to make sure you haven't had your hands in it or anything. Your pot must be clean. The water that you're adding into it should be clean as well. If it's not, then you run the risk of the sugar not caramelizing properly. You might have some crystallization, and then you won't get that really beautiful amber color. Instead, you'll get this kind of real grainy mess that definitely will not set properly in your creme caramel tins. So I have the heat here on about a medium heat and I've added the sugar as well as the water. I want to make sure that I do not take a utensil and start stirring this. That is a very, very common mistake that students make. They go ahead and start stirring this right away. And the issue with that is the agitation from the utensil could also cause crystallization in your caramel, in your sugar while you're making your caramel. So what you want to do is just make sure that you don't really have too much going on with the heat. And when you notice that it starts to come to a simmer, you just do a quick swirl with the pot. You don't even need, again, you don't need the utensil. So you'll see in my video here that I have the progression of the caramel going. And while I'm letting the caramel cook, I will move on to make the custard. So while the caramel is cooking on one stove, I am making the custard at the same time. We call this multitasking. And it's great to understand and learn the importance of multitasking when you're in the kitchen so that you can be a more efficient cook or baker. So what I have right now in this little saucepan is I have the milk and the cream in there, and now I'm going to go ahead and whisk together my 3 eggs plus the 2 egg yolks. And I want to ensure that everything is whisked properly. Now today you're going to learn a technique that you may already know, which is called tempering. Now that's introducing a hot liquid into a cold liquid or vice versa, and making sure to not shock it. Just like you do not want to jump into a freezing cold pool, you don't want to shock these ingredients. You want to introduce them slowly. So as you can see, I just swirled my pan and you can see that it's bubbling up, but there's no color yet. And now you can see that there's a little bit of steam coming from the milk and cream mixture. And I'm just agitating my egg mixture again. And so this is the tempering process. You see I'm whisking the eggs, but I'm also slowly adding in the hot milk and cream. And this introduces it at just the right pace so that you do not curdle the eggs. This is what really provides that beautiful silky texture of the creme caramel that you want to achieve in the end. Now the beautiful thing about this recipe, in this recipe you're going to be adding vanilla extract. But if you wanted to have a different flavor profile for your creme caramel, you really could customize it. You could add coffee extract. You could add a lot of different types of dessert liqueurs such as Kahlua, creme de cassis, creme de menthe. There's so many options. Chambord, Grand Marnier. So really the world is your oyster as far as what flavor profile you want to do for your creme caramel. You can even add rum. You could do something interesting, maybe some bruleed bananas on top or something like that. So you'll see here in the video that I've really sped up this portion because I wanted for you to understand and see the progression of the caramel. So I've sped it up quite a bit, but this took about 10 minutes to fully come to the color that I want for the caramel. So as it continues to cook, you'll notice that I keep swirling it. Again, there is no utensil that I'm using to stir this caramel. So now you can see the color is turning real light brown, and students sometimes make the mistake of pouring the caramel at this color. This is way too light. You want to make sure that you get the proper color of deep caramel so that you can have that balance of flavor. The deep caramel color contributes a little bit of bitterness to the sweet custard that you're going to be pairing it with, and therefore it really provides for the perfect balance of those flavors. Otherwise, you'll just have sweet with sweet and no complexity. So now the color is getting a little bit darker, and you can see that it has that kind of amber color. We're going to take it a little bit further than this, because sometimes what happens is you'll see the color in the pot, but then when you pour it in the tin, it's much lighter than you thought it was. But see how quickly the color is changing. This is real time here. I am not speeding this part up. So now the caramel is ready. We're going to pour it into the tins, and you want to make sure that each tin has a proper amount, so it should cover the entire bottom. And what I'm doing is I'm pouring some into each tin first to make sure I have enough, and then I'll top up the rest. Now, if you take a long time to do this step, your caramel will keep cooking, and then it will burn in the pot. And in the end, you'll have burnt caramel. So you'll see here that, wow, the color of the caramel has already changed in the pot. So if I went any slower, I would have burnt caramel. So this is just the right color that I'm looking for, but again, you can't wait too long. So how about cleaning this pot after? How do you do that? All you do is pour in some water and you just let all of that caramel boil out, and it'll be super easy to clean. So what I need to do now is let this settle and let this kind of harden before I pour in my prepared custard. So this will only take a few minutes. So see, I'm showing you here that you can boil out your caramel. So I have the old one that I need to clean out of the pot, and I'm just going to pour in some water and let that boil out over some time, and then it'll be very, very easy to clean. There's the water. So you see how the caramel hardens, but then I turn the stove back on. Okay, ready to pour in the custard now. Now I transferred my custard to a pitcher just to make it much easier for me to pour. And I'm pouring it almost to the top to ensure that it has plenty of custard in there. You don't want to have a short creme caramel. And you want to make sure that if you're filling one to the top, you fill all of them to the top. Because if you have one short and one tall and one short and one tall, they're going to bake at different temperatures. Some of them will be overbaked, some of them will be underbaked. So that's why you want to try your best to have consistent amount throughout. So as you can see here, I have a total of, let's count, 2, 4, 6, 8 creme caramels. And it will be a wonderful thing once you're finished with it. I believe your recipe is a half recipe of this, so you'll have 4. But either way, you'll still have plenty of stuff to eat this week, along with your other recipes too. So just keep in mind that in my demos, sometimes I'll have more of a quantity, and yours will probably be a half recipe. And now we're ready to bake. I wanted to utilize this countertop oven to show you that even utilizing a rinky-dink oven like this is going to produce some amazing results. So you see that my oven rack is kind of towards the bottom middle, and I have made sure that the oven temperature is ready, whatever according to your recipe, and I went ahead and put in the creme caramels, but I took 2 out, and this leaves enough space for me to pour in some just boiled water onto the bottom. Now what we're doing here is we're baking this in a water bath. And that way it bakes gently, and you will have very, very even cooking throughout the creme caramel. If you forget this step, you'll probably have overcooked creme caramel and it will look like a rubbery omelet. So you want to make sure you do not skip this step. And the water has to be very, very hot when it goes into the pan. So with care, please be careful when you're pushing that sheet pan into the oven. Woo! Just perfect. Close the oven door, and then I'm just going to let this bake until it's done. Now I know that students hate that, but you want to check it maybe every 15 minutes or so, and you want to give it a little jiggle, just like I did. So the jiggle there that I'm looking for is it should jiggle like Jello. And once it's jiggled like Jello, that means it's done. If it's still sloshing around like a soup, then the middle is not cooked yet. So now I can cool it down in the refrigerator, and then we will plate it up. Now you don't have to go through this step, but I thought, we have these nice plates at school, and Chef Heidi gave me this sauce spoon to utilize. So what I'm doing here is I'm utilizing the creme anglaise that we made this week. And I have a base of creme anglaise on the bottom, and this will be the sauce for the creme caramel. Now I also took some creme anglaise out and I colored it with a little bit of pink color, but you could always do raspberry puree or something like that. And I wanted to do a little cute pattern. So you'll see that I end up putting some little pink dots, and then I will pull through those with a toothpick of some sort, and then you'll see that it becomes little hearts. So I just put a couple of dollops. I think I ended up putting about 6 total of the pink. And then I will pull through for the design with the back of a spoon or a toothpick or a skewer or something like that. And it creates that restaurant look that you're looking for. So there I go, pulling it through, and now you see that it becomes hearts. How cute. Okay, now it's time to present the creme caramel. You want to take a serrated knife, or it doesn't have to be serrated, just a flat knife, and you're going to very, very carefully cut the edge. And this is a completely cooled creme caramel. Make sure that it's completely cooled, please. So that way it has proper time to set. And all you're going to do is just flip it over and be able to put it in the middle of your plate, and it's ready to eat. So I'm just taking an offset spatula here. I ended up unmolding a couple of different creme caramels, and I'm just going to gently place my finished creme caramel onto my plate, and it will be ready for serving. Good luck to you for this recipe, and I hope you enjoy it.